Abnormal Andy, and Phantom Dark Dave. The Screaming Skull Podcast.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to a brand new episode of the Screaming Skull Podcast, and we are your hosts. I'm Phantom Dark Dave.
And I'm Abnormal Andy.
Andy, we're coming off the cusp of a pretty unique episode. We covered mortuary last time.
Yeah, you're probably still hating me for picking that, but yeah, it was a fun episode.
You can't hate on a Bill Paxton horror movie, especially one from the 80s, but we love it so much that we're back in the 80s again for this episode, and wouldn't you know it, it's another movie that starts with M.
That's right. Maniac from 1980.
Another Tom Savini love of mine. Well, it sounds like I love Tom Savini, but I guess I kind of do because I love his work. But man, it's like anything he does effects on is gold.
And this is directed by William Lustig, who did Maniac Cop franchise. So that's
and they're not related, right? That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't.
Waiting for Maniac Podcaster. Where's that movie?
Yeah.
Well, today's episode is especially cool because we're doing something a little different. We're not doing horror news, and we're having a guest on the show. And I think he said it best when he said, what better way than to talk about Maniac than with a horror maniac? So let's bring him on the show. What's up, Corin?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good, man. Making your debut to Screaming Skull Podcast. Now, you and I have talked for a handful of times, maybe two handfuls of times over the last, 6 years or so. But my goodness, it's the first time you're with Andy.
It's true. It's been on a variety of different podcasts that you've hosted, but this is my first debut on this one.
Yeah, it's good to meet you, Corin. Yeah, finally.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, and man, Corin, I feel like this is a great episode, a great movie, really, to have you on for, because I'm kind of making it up for you, because the last time you talked to Hawkalypse, and I felt really bad about putting you through that one.
I mean, it was interesting. It's always fun to talk about a movie, like no matter like what quality level the movie is. But yeah, it's good to go with a classic, you know. And I hadn't seen it in a while, so it was a good excuse to rewatch it.
Now, Andy, you and I both know that this movie is a cult classic. It's a favorite amongst many slasher fans. But had you seen this before the podcast?
Yeah, I watched it. I don't know, probably a long time ago. I watched it, like probably, I don't know, almost 20 years ago, probably. I think was the last time I saw it.
Okay. Now, is this something you had physical format or just in the streaming world? I guess 20 years ago, I don't think we were streaming in 2000.
No,
so
I think I must have got off. Yeah, I rented it off Netflix or something.
Well, I don't care if you got off. I just want to know if you watched it, and how you watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably than Maniac.
Purple shorts are hot.
Oh, yeah.
When they're on, especially when they're on a mannequin, right?
That's right. Yeah. Why are they called mannequins? Because they were women. Womenkins.
Yeah.
How about you, Corin, man? What's your history with this movie?
I mean, I feel like it's kind of the same thing. Like I saw it probably close to 20 years ago. Must have like rented the DVD probably from like local video store or something like that. Maybe got it through the Netflix mail, something like that, but it's definitely been a while.
I never did the Netflix mail. I had the Blockbuster online, their mail, because they would send you the disc in the mail. You could watch it and immediately take it into any Blockbuster store, and they would exchange it for anything in the store. And so you could be like, oh, I just got Maniac, watched it. I've taken it back to the store. Now I'm going to grab Hills Have Eyes off the shelf. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you do that, now they've already started the process of sending you the other one through the mail. So you were like flipping that shit left and right. It was amazing.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, I really liked the Netflix DVDs through the mail for a while. I actually did it longer than most people I knew, because people would be all like, "Oh, you remember when Netflix used to have DVDs?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, I'm still using that. Like that hasn't gone away." And but I had the streaming too, of course, but it was just because I kept the DVDs for so long because it was like you'd have the more obscure films that wouldn't be on streaming, and so I'm like, well, if I'd have to pay to rent them or buy the physical media anyway, I might as well just have the disc sent to my house, and I'll just keep flipping these over and watching these like really random shit.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue too, because we need to talk about why one, kind of why we're friends, right? We both love horror so much, but two, why it's great that Andy and I have you on this particular episode, because if I'm being honest, and Andy, take this how you will, but when it comes to horror, like I know that you love B movies, you love definitely your version of obscure movies, but you definitely don't seek out movies that like really push the envelope. Like you kind of draw a line at some places, and I feel like I fall in the middle where I don't seek things out, but if it's on, I'll watch it, and sometimes it's pretty intriguing, and so I watch anything that leads up to just past kind of the wide distribution to, oh, this is underground, I'm gonna check it out. And then you have Corin, who, my God, runs a site called sickflix.net, which is devoted to the craziest stuff possible. So, Corin, let's talk about what you do and what kind of stuff you really like.
Yeah, well, I run sickflix.net, and so do all kinds of different reviews, but there's the extreme cinema category, and that's kind of the specialty of the site, trying to like find and review like the most like fucked up films ever made, getting like the really nasty underground shit, and yeah, I find that to be really fascinating, and I like to try to track down the obscure, interesting, really like weird twisted stuff.
You see, this is really Andy and I are undercover. We work for the BAU, and we're running a criminal profile on you right now, and we're probably going to show up to your house soon because of what you just said.
Yeah, I was expecting it.
Yeah, and don't you love how it really goes? Is like I've known both you guys for a long time, and we're just like regular old dudes, got families and the whole nine yards, and it's like, but we just love our horror movies, and that keeps us at bay.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and for me too, I mean, like I also do have like a line, that like I don't like to cross, like I'm not so into like just like the mixtape like shock videos, like I don't really like seeing like the real death stuff. Like I'll see it if it's in a movie and things, but like I'm not seeking that out. And obviously, like I'm not gonna watch anything that's illegal. Fuck that, I'm
Right.
not seeking that. We're not talking dark web shit like this. I only want to see the, art that's pushing the boundaries, that kind of stuff.
And I think that's really what it is too. Is I would not be your friend if you did seek out that really bad stuff. And it's kind of cool because I can picture Corin's like, oh, I want to see the craziest shit possible, and you're like, this better be fake though. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
isn't that what we all love? I mean, anything from your Saw to your Terrifier to things that you've told me about, like the guinea pig stuff, where I'm just like, what is this? I
Yeah.
never was into Faces of Death or anything, but I think I heard that ended up being fake as well.
So, well, some of the segments are fake. Some of it's real. It's mostly like the animal stuff is real.
Uh,
And I think like some of the footage was like real captured footage, but a lot of it was staged.
Okay, right on. Well, you know, this movie is a cult classic for so many reasons. It definitely falls into all of our wheelhouse because one, I think for the 80s, it was definitely making a statement because this was, if I'm not mistaken, this was 1980, right, Andy?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And so, 70s, you were kind of getting into, horror was so safe for such a long time. And then when you had things like Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, everything, Hills Have Eyes, Last House on the Left, you were getting that late 70s stuff. And then 80s flipped a whole new genre. We got into splatter horror, but when you have Tom Savini doing effects that makes it look so incredibly realistic, and then you mix something that I know Andy absolutely loves, and that's that New York gritty, grimy life in the 80s vibe in it, we got a masterpiece on our hands.
Yeah, you definitely got that New York City deep dive on this movie. You saw all the different locations that were filmed and stuff. So you really get a sense of kind of what it was like. So I really like that. It's kind of like a time capsule for that time period.
It does,
Kind of
and
like
it really
Taxi Driver.
it is like
Yeah.
Taxi Driver, and it presents
Yeah.
itself in this like guerrilla filmmaking
Oh yeah, because they
where no one has a permit. You just
right.
record it and run your ass off.
Yeah, I guess whenever they were doing the shotgun scene, that was not permitted, so they had to do that really fast and then take off.
Which is like the
Awesome.
most horrifying thing to witness if you don't know they're filming a movie.
Yeah.
I've actually had the cops called on me before for filming stuff. One time, it was actually back when we were in film school, we went into the parking lot to do this like special effects like kind of workshop thing. And so we had like guns out and there was blood and shit like that. And then all of a sudden, like multiple cop cars just like peel in and the cops jump out and they're like, all right, everyone put the weapons on the ground, put the weapons on the ground. It's like, all right, man, it's cool. We're just like filming some.
Oh,
And so, yeah, but then like the professor had to be like, no, it's like we're fucking filming. This is like a college class, man. Like, settle down. So
oh,
they ended up thinking it was funny in the end, but it was pretty crazy because like the houses that were kind of nearby, like people were clearly like, "Oh my God, there's people like getting shot out there."
oh, wow.
At what point are the cops like, all right, we're gonna let you go with a warning, but only if you put us in the movie?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I want to go ahead and dive into this thing because this is got a lot of cool things to talk about. So, this movie, it opens up with like killer POV, and we hear someone executing some serious ASMR. We got some going on, and we see a couple lying on the beach in the sand, and the guy leaves to get firewood, and she's left behind. What happens is killer shows up. We don't know who it is, but he slices her throat with a razor. He returns, and then our killer shows up behind him and wraps piano wire around his neck. And we get to see it in all its graphic glory as he pulls the piano through and slices all the way through the throat where his head almost comes off. And so, Andy, what do you think about this opening?
That was really cool, man. And I really got the whole Jaws vibe from it. It reminded me of the beginning of Jaws, the
Mhm.
beach setting, the first kill on the beach. And I think they were actually inspired by Jaws to do this, but and also I remember those little quarter binocular things that you use to look at. We don't really have too many.
Sightseeing.
Yeah, we don't really have too many of those around here. Like I think the only place that I remember seeing them was at the zoo, but other than that, they don't like have them in the city or anything like that. So this is kind of one of those interesting things that you see in movies that you may not see like in everyday life. But yeah, no, I liked the beginning, and I kind of left me wondering, was this a dream? Because he like wakes up and like he was dreaming. So kind of leaves you with that question. But then I guess later on you find out it wasn't a dream.
Right,
Yeah, I was
because
gonna
we
say,
see
didn't
it in
they
the
like
paper.
show like on the newspaper or
Yeah,
something that like I said
yeah.
yeah.
Have you
Yeah,
guys
that's a
ever
great way
camped
to
out on
set
the
the tone.
beach?
What's up?
Uh Fuck no.
Okay, yeah, me neither. Andy, have you ever like camped out on the beach, laid in the sand?
Oh no, no.
My mind was blown when there's like, go get firewood, and I'm like, there's firewood on the beach? What?
Yeah. I just feel like I would be kind of expecting like some maniac to roll up, being exposed on a beach like that. So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, for
let's get
sure.
into the exposure of a maniac because this is where we see him for the first time. Andy mentions that he wakes up from a dream and he's screaming and he's whining, and we get a good look at him. And he's got like chest scars, and we get an even better look at his apartment because, guys, we see everything from dolls, like porcelain dolls, to mannequins, and even a picture of a woman who we don't know who it is. But Corin, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure you've lived in an apartment before. What do you think of this guy's setup?
Exactly like an apartment I used to live in, right down to the mannequins. Uh, no, it's yeah, no, it's pretty great. I mean, like he's got like kind of like a shrine, sort of set up there with a lot of candles and things, and then to who we find out later, or we get a good enough idea who that is, his mother. And yeah, he's got his crazy ass mannequins everywhere. And uh I thought they did a really good job establishing the apartment. Like it feels dark and oppressive in there, and just like everything is kind of like gross. Like you feel a little bit crazy, just like even like spending any time in there with him. So you're like, yeah, this is really fitting,
Yeah, the whole time I'm like, just turn some damn lights on and put some music on. You'll be okay.
right?
Yeah, I heard that. I read that they got the inspiration for his apartment from some like Italian horror, like giallo movies. So I
Mm.
could definitely see that, and I definitely saw like uh, things that seem to reference like giallo movies like throughout this movie. Like they definitely took inspiration from Argento. It seemed like,
Fulci. I think that's why I like it so much, to be honest.
yeah,
Cool. Well, our maniac killer, we see him getting dressed, and he's going to hit the New York streets and find himself a hooker in purple shorts. We find out, she'll do anything for $100, and all he wants her to do is model. And so, they're in this little sleazy hotel room, and she's putting on a show, but with her clothes on, of course. And I don't know, this sets some things off. And she says there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I believe she finds it because he starts to choke her out, upon which she even seems to resemble his mother, which was kind of interesting. And it makes him want to go into the bathroom and throw up in the toilet and then come back and then scalp her. And so, I mean, Corin, is this checking all the boxes?
I thought there was so much interesting stuff going on. For one thing, like I felt bad for the hooker, on this time around, especially. I was just like, man, she's out there, she's just trying to like make rent and stuff like that, and she has to deal with these fucking scumbags, and then this absolute psycho kills her just so he can get off. Like, I'm like, fuck, that sucks. But yeah, the way it was done was really good. And what I think is really cool about this movie is that I feel like it portrays a very realistic serial killer. Like when I think about like serial killers, going around like killing hookers, stalking the streets, this is actually exactly the kind of guy I picture. Like I feel like Joe Spinell really looks so perfect for the role, and he just kind of embodied exactly what, especially in like an 80s like maniac kind of guy going around. I'm like, he looks exactly like who I would think would be doing this. And I thought showing the kind of more complex relationship he has to the killing was interesting. Like it makes him physically sick when he kills her. There's a lot of like him talking to himself, like he doesn't want to be doing this, but there's like a part of him that has to, so it wasn't like he's just some like mustache twirling maniac, like he's
It
crazy,
shows us
but
that
he's
he feels
conflicted.
compelled to do it.
Yeah,
And he wouldn't
exactly.
even
And
be
so,
offended that you said he looks the part. Joe Spinell was
yeah,
all about this movie because he helped write it too.
yeah. And I thought, and he did such a great job. And like, I also like with that first kill too, the when it cuts to like a close up of his face when he's strangling her, it's like maybe the creepiest fucking thing ever. Like the face he's making, it's so just like chilling and crazy looking. I loved it.
Andy, how about the realism of that scalping scene? That was gnarly.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like yeah, that's some I mean, there's like cutaways, but it's some really good effects and also this answers a question I had in my brain when I was watching this. It seemed like during that scene like it would switch to a different actress during the strangulation and I was like, okay, that explains it because he's visualizing it at being his mother. So that's why it's switching back and forth between
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
You were
real yeah.
you were like, wow, they didn't even get a stunt double that even looked close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that seems to be like part of his like psychosis is like he's like visualizing his mother in all of these kills, it's like he keeps like reenacting his like childhood trauma, and this is like his fucked up way of like processing it.
Gonna say, yeah, the whole idea of like scalping, like it's like, where does that come from? Like, is that just like, I guess it's just a way to keep some of the like a trophy without having the whole body, I guess. I don't know. It's
I
interesting.
think I think we're going to get the answer in the next scene because we get to follow him to his apartment as he's lugging a giant trash bag. And I thought it was really funny because he passes a neighbor at one point and they're like, "Oh, did some Christmas shopping?" And he's like, "Huh, yeah." And I was like, "Oh, it's Christmas time. That's cool."
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing else in the movie gave us Christmas vibes, by the way. So it's cool to know what the time of year it was. But
Still a Christmas movie though now.
still a
Goes with the
Christmas
Yeah.
candy.
movie every year.
Yeah.
Um, well, he brings the bag into the apartment, opens it up, and we find out inside the bag it contains the hooker's clothes and her scalp and a mannequin. And so Andy, he takes the scalp because he is now hammering it to the tops of the mannequins, which is why all the mannequins' faces are covered in blood. And I gotta say, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, me neither. I guess.
Something to do.
Yeah, I guess everybody's got to collect something, right?
Collect
I thought it
scalps.
was it was crazy. Like he, when he was walking with the mannequin, I just assumed he had the entire body, and he's just like so casually like walking through. I mean, it's still weird as fuck to be just carrying an entire mannequin in a trash bag as it is, but yeah, I thought that was more like, oh man, he's really casual about just bringing the entire corpse with him. Um, But yeah, I thought the whole like the scalping thing was really interesting, and it made the mannequins look so cool and creepy, having like the blood dripping down onto their faces and the clothes of the murder victims. Like that was such a bizarre and interesting vibe to like make it the creepiest fucking apartment ever.
It seems like such a simple idea, but I don't think I've ever seen it done before in a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I don't think so. It's that I those definitely had to be new at the time. I don't even feel like there was any Italian films or anything that I had seen that in.
yeah, mannequins are creepy enough. So I mean, adding that aspect to it, it makes it even worse.
Now, Andy, I know you're a musician. Have you ever owned a guitar?
Yeah.
Okay, so we learned from this movie you can put a lot of things in a guitar case because this next scene, he has a guitar case, but he puts a double-barreled shotgun and a bayonetta and some other odds and ends in here. So that's like pre-Desperado, man.
Yeah, it kind of reminds us of the Prowler too. Just
Yes,
the
that
different what?
bayonetta,
Yeah.
so good, man.
I was definitely getting Desperado vibes, thinking like the guitar case full of weapons kind of thing. I'm like,
Yes,
I wonder if Rodriguez borrowed from that. It probably was inspired.
I hope he did. This next scene is my favorite part of the movie. I think you guys might be pretty close, if not right there with me, because he's going to hit the street again, but this time he's in his car and he pulls up to a nightclub called Blossoms. And Lord behold, we got Tom Savini in this movie and his date for the evening. And so our maniac killer is going to stalk them and follow them. They drive away to a makeout spot. And this is just I absolutely love it because Andy, it shows us again just how like gritty, grimy, and guerrilla filmmaking it really is. I know that sounds kind of redundant because I brought it up, but I mean literally from the camera angles to the nighttime shot. There's not a whole bunch of lights. They're using everything all natural that they can. Everything from the lights, like the headlights of the car and everything, but this scene is so cool because I like Tom Savini's like, "Hey, you want to meet me somewhere?" She's like, "Where?" He's like, "The back seat." And I'm like, "I've never used that line before. I'm gonna hit that on the host meeting with these guys." But you guys want to meet me somewhere? Where? In a meeting. But it's so cool because they go in the back seat and Tom Savini is so charming and he just and she's buying into all the cues. It was kind of misleading though because she's like, I have a boyfriend. He's like, so what? He's not here. And I'm like, oh Tom, that's not okay. But maybe she was just pulling our leg with that one. But he starts to pull her leg too because he's trying to go downtown for Pound Town in the back seat. And this is a pretty cool scene because we see that our killer is outside the car window in the back seat and he's peering in so much so that she catches a glimpse of it. She calls everything off. She wants to leave. Tom Savini gets blue balls. He's bummed about it, but he seems like a good dude. He's like, all right, I'll take you home. They go in the front seat. And apparently this was inspired by true events, though I didn't look it up, but it's such a cool sequence because as soon as he starts the car, he turns the headlights on. It reveals that our maniac killer is standing there and he's like, we know they're in New York because it is cold as fuck. He's got a toboggan on, a beanie, he's got the full jacket, but my God, he's equipped with that shotgun. He jumps up on the hood. All mind you that this whole thing is in slow motion. We get one freeze frame of Tom Savini giving us a oh shit moment, and then he blows this guy's head to smithereens. I'm talking pure trauma style. It is practical. It is fantastic. And we got blood and guts going all over the girlfriend. I mean, Corin, this has got to be just yes.
That was amazing. I mean, that's like a highlight of the movie. I love seeing sleazy Mac Daddy Tom Savini just like trying to get it on. It's like 70s style, like like his stash and stuff like that. It was like so great. And I was like, oh, it's so fucked up, man. Like he was gonna get some, and like yeah, you couldn't kill him afterwards. You had to do it like right before. That's a dick move. But yeah, the practical effects of like the head exploding, and it's of course like you see Tom Savini in a cameo like of this kind of movie, you're like, oh yeah, he's probably gonna like die like gruesomely. But and it did not disappoint because it was such a good effect that still holds up really well because I am such a fan of practical effects and like CGI has its place, but generally CGI pisses me off. And like CGI effects that were made last year, so like still look worse than like something that was made in the 80s, you know? So I really appreciated seeing a nice like practical effect there, and it was just like I love how they like lingered on it. It's just the head blasting apart and just like slow motion. It was pretty beautiful.
Hey, Andy, did you see why Tom Savini got cast in this role?
Um, was it because he knew how the prop worked, basically, or?
That, and he actually already owned a model of his own head, so it was easy to
Oh
just
yeah,
cast him in somebody where they could blow the head apart. And I gotta say, normally I don't get too overly excited about like gun kills, but this takes the cake, man.
yeah, for sure. I mean, when you get yeah, it's not just it's just not a simple like squib exploding. It's like a whole head, exploding. So
It is,
definitely,
and
yeah.
that's just Tom Savini's character. So she, of course, the girlfriend, she's freaked out. She climbs in the back seat, and then our killer walks around and he toys with her a little bit. He wants to play with his food before he eats it, and then he eventually shoots her dead, but off screen. But I figured with the effect we just got with Tom Savini, I didn't need it times two. It was fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it was I agree too, whereas like gun kills aren't normally that interesting, but they were really able to do something that elevated it. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought because like I know like the scene in Scanners, the Cronenberg is like really
Yes.
famous with the head exploding, but I thought this one held up better. And maybe because you shot it more from the back, so I don't know, kind of like kept the realism a little bit better. But I thought this was an exceptionally good for head explodings. I thought this was an exceptionally good one.
Yeah, if there was like a top five head explosions, I think this one and Scanners would both make that list, to be
Yeah,
honest.
oh
yeah.
yeah.
So Andy, we go back to the apartment and we see, he's watching the news, he's hearing about all his killings, and he's continuously having conversations, I assume with his mannequins, maybe to the picture of his mom, but he is talking out loud. And I'm getting a very like Norman Bates-esque type vibe with this. And it really kind of goes overboard when he handcuffs himself to the mannequin and rocks himself to sleep. What the hell's going on?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I was like, man, handcuffs can't be comfortable, and like, what is he doing to that mannequin? I wasn't quite sure. So rocking himself to sleep, we'll say that.
Okay, here, hold on one second. Hey, Julie, are handcuffs comfortable? Yeah, she says they're fine. Okay. No, actually, and that's a funny thing I want to say is I showed this movie to Julie and I told her before, I was like, I'm going to show you this movie because it's the next one on the podcast. I don't think you're going to like it, but it makes sense to at least know what we're talking about. And she really liked this movie. It blew my mind.
Oh, cool.
Kind of like
Wow.
Tom Savini's effect.
But I think like it seems like the this like part is going back to like his whole like conflicted nature with it, like his like multiple personalities or something. Like part of it wants him to stop the killings, like keeps like saying like, oh, they're gonna take you away from me, and it's like he's doing the voice of his mother or something. So he's like trying to, I think, like keep himself like restrained so he can't go out because he knows when he goes out, then like he won't be able to stop his like compulsion to kill. So there's like sort of that inner turmoil of him, part of him doesn't want to do it and part of him can't help it.
Right. Okay. Well, next day he's walking in the park, and it's a total mood shift of a movie at this point because he spots a woman who's taking his picture, and she walks off and leaves her bag behind. It's her camera bag, and he goes over, pretend to ties his shoe, but what he's really doing is fetching her address off the bag, and it looks like he is plotting his next victim. And why not? So, I mean, she fits the profile of everybody else he's killed. But later that night, he actually shows up to a department store and he's staring outside of the window and he's moaning at mannequins. Corin, have you ever done that?
I mean, yeah, like every Friday night. That's
Every
my
Friday
normal
night?
kind of routine. Yeah.
Do you have
It'd
a
be weird to do
particular
it any other
mannequin
night.
that you like? Like, is the color of the mannequin, the size of the mannequin matter, the gender? I mean,
I mean, I like when they have like kind of like a bloody scalp on the top, but
of course. Yeah. I mean, that's a given.
other
I
than
just,
that, the more realistic, the better. I like to have a creepy, uncanny valley kind of look.
Andy, do you like how that added to what we know more about the maniac in this movie? Like he literally is I mean, he's in public. Like, granted, it's nighttime, but he stands outside of a department store window and he's just like, I mean, I literally I was waiting for him to be like, oh yeah, but we didn't get one of those. But I mean, you see that in the street, somebody's fucked up.
Oh yeah,
I feel like
sure.
that'd be a horrifying thing to see, and also probably is guaranteed that's actually happened. Like any kind of department store that's had mannequins, there's bound to have been some creep at some point standing there,
Yeah,
just
but
like
we usually expect
staring
them to
at
be
them.
like 12 years old though, not
Yeah, 12
although
or 50 kind of runs the gamut.
although in this movie we will get a scene where it seems like he's reduced to a 12-year-old, but we'll get to that chronologically. But Andy, if you're anything like me, man, I thought this scene was really cool. We get a really great cat and mouse scene where he's standing outside of a hospital and he's waiting for the nurses to get off work. Two of them walk out. One of them who's getting a ride offers the other girl a ride, doesn't take it. And so here we go, we have a girl walking home alone at night. Don't worry, she's not a vampire. If you know what I mean, then cool. But follows her to
Girl
one
walks
of
home alone at
Andy's
night.
favorite settings, and that is a subway. So, Andy, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about this scene where he follows the nurse to the subway.
Yeah, this is just a great example of how this movie builds tension. I think there's several scenes that do this very well. But this is a good one where he's just like stalking her, and then she goes down into the subway station. Uh, but there's like, it's weird. There's like nobody around. I mean, of course, it's late at night, I guess. And but she's trying to just like find somewhere to. She can't get out of. I think she tries to get out of the subway station, but it's like the doors are locked or something. Like she can go in, but she can't get out of that particular station. So she like runs into this bathroom, and of course, Frank, he's able to always kind of know where she's at, it seems like. And well, I think he just kind of deduces that since the gates are locked, the only other place that she can be is in the bathroom. And so like when he's walking in the bathroom, it's like really tense because we're hearing her breathing, and we're like, "You're breathing too loud, stop," and she's like making all these
Mhm.
noises, and you're just like wanting her to be quiet, and because you're kind of rooting for her. But yeah, but you don't quite know when Frank's gonna pop out or whatever. So like he comes in the bathroom and then he leaves, and then so she's like kind of feeling the sense of relief, and then but you're not quite sure. You're like, I don't think she's quite safe yet. And so this is a really great scene where they build that suspense.
And
It was
Corin,
such a
we finally
series
get
of
to
like,
see that Bayonetta, dude.
yeah, it was such a series of like poor choices on her part. At first, I'm like, because when she refused the ride from her coworker, I was like, okay, well, she must have like something else planned. But then she just like walks. I'm like, why don't you just take the ride? Like what are you doing? And then I'm like, oh no, don't go into the subway. Oh, you're so fucked. And then it's just like, yeah, and then when she's like in the bathroom. Then she's hiding in there for a while. I'm like, just stay in there all night if you have to. Don't like ever leave the stall. But then of course, like she has to go and like check things out. It's like, oh God. So it's like pretty much the wrong call at every move. And then yeah, then we get like his brutal kill of her right in the bathroom there.
I like how you said it too, because it's so ironic. You said like, she leaves the stall because she has to go, and I'm like, usually when I have to go, I go in the stall.
Indeed.
How
Another,
about that scene, Andy? Because like, she gets killed, but it happens like in front of a mirror, and I thought that was so cool to
yeah,
like see the kill happening, but we get to see it from both points of view.
yeah, I thought that was really brutal. Where he was like, he brought her in front of the camera, and he's like, look at. He was like telling her to look, and
Yeah,
as he was like stabbing her, and I thought that was like, whoa, it's really brutal, really like disturbing, like an upsetting. So it was a nice touch, yeah.
next scene, he gets to finally he gets the nerve, I guess, to go meet the photographer who took his picture. And right when he shows up, she happens to be developing the exact picture that she took of him. So that was pretty cool. And she's like, oh wow, I had just, how crazy is it? It's like 1980, you don't know who this is, and she's like, oh yeah, I took your picture, come on in. I mean, she's inviting it, right?
Yeah, I thought this whole sequence was kind of I was a little confused by or something. I don't know. For one thing, like so from her perspective, like she saw this random guy who looks sketchy as hell, frankly, walking around in the park, takes his picture, and then he happens to show up at her house, and like she's not I don't even remember like what like thin excuse he used or something to even get in there because I'm like, how would you not be completely horrified that this guy is just showing up here out of
How does he
nowhere?
know where you live? Like we know as a viewer, but how is
Right.
that not going through her mind?
Yeah. And then like also what was weird too, and I was like, I don't know. I was wondering if this was kind of an inconsistency with it, but I thought, initially, because I had forgotten a lot of the details and how this played out, but like, I'm like, he's just gonna kill her as soon as like he gets in the apartment. That's the only reason like why he's like pretending. But then like he doesn't, and then they start just kind of dating. And I was like, so he's able to pretend to be normal for like a lot longer stretches of time than, because usually when we see him, he's just kind of he'll be normal enough to like get into like the hotel room or something. But other than that, he's like, nah, and like talking to himself and like scalping putting scalps on mannequins and shit like that, and just like completely unhinged. So to see him just be like in this whole persona for so long, I was like, oh, he can do this, like so it's kind of I don't know. I thought maybe I don't know. Maybe they should have like established a little more of like what his day-to-day life is, because if he is able to kind of hold down a job and be a regular kind of guy, but also has these compulsions, I think that would be interesting. But it sort of comes out of left field when you see him being normal for so long at this point.
Oh, so I'm not the only one who was wondering how the hell he paid for an apartment.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I think he was actually the landlord. I read.
Oh, I
He
I don't know.
was.
I don't know. That's
I
what.
don't
That's
think that
what.
came through.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he just robbed everybody he killed.
Oh yeah. Huh. Well, he did tell her
Yeah,
he was a painter or something, right?
Because he has that aesthetic.
Yeah.
just like I thought it would have been interesting because it was just like one serial killer that I was like just reading about the other day. I forget what his fucking name is. Like, Um, but he was like in the 80s and he killed like six guys, and he ran this what he called his bizarre bazaar, where
Yeah.
he would have this kind
Bob
of like,
Berdella.
yes, that's the one. Yeah, and like how he like just sort of like just lived in like normal society. He even kind of looked like the maniac from Frank Zito from this film. Um, but like then like when he would like capture guys, then he would just, be like torturing them and doing all this like fucked up shit. And it's just like it was really creepy is like thinking about someone like that just kind of like being out in normal society, fitting in, having a job and stuff like that, and then like they're doing this like really dark, crazy shit, on their own.
Yeah, that was here in Kansas City, actually. Fun fact.
Really,
Yeah.
Is it really fun though?
Well,
this is such a fun fact.
So this is where we get like into the third act of the film, as Corin kind of mentioned. It's a total shift because he's kind of being a nice guy, like a regular, charming guy, and so much so she's got to be totally into him because they've met for all of 5 minutes, and all of a sudden they're going out to dinner, and they seem to have a really nice evening. There's a lot of charm being thrown around, and they're at the Clam Casino. Would you ever go to a place called the Clam Casino? I don't think I would.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it also sounds like a movie I wouldn't watch either.
Right. So you're just really getting into weird fetishy territory there.
We are later on that week, he visits her at work. We see a relationship that is developing, and he brings her a little stuffed animal. It looked like it might be a bear, but it also looked kind of weird. I don't know what it was, but he gets to meet her friends, who are these models. And one of them is Rita, and this is kind of weird because if I'm not mistaken, there's a scene where Anna, who's the photographer, hugs Rita, and it makes him kind of uncomfortable. And so I don't know if he's like, don't hug my girl or whatever, but he takes this opportunity to take Rita's necklace. And I can only assume it's to make her think that she lost it because he's going to want to deliver it to her apartment later. Andy, I don't know, man. What did you think about this weird scene of photography and this weird choice of music? This is going to be a showdown.
Yeah, it's like kind of like what, like disco or something like that, or something.
Yeah, and I love the disco, but usually when it makes sense.
But yeah, no, the scene was interesting. So he's kind of acting normal as we saw in the previous scene with Caroline Monroe. But yeah, he takes her necklace, and I think like he sees it kind of goes back to like his kind of his MO where he talks about pretty women and women being beautiful and things like that. And I think seeing the models, it kind of like set him off. For some reason, Caroline Monroe's character didn't set him off, but the other ones did. But yeah, he focused on Rita and took her necklace, and we didn't quite know why he took it. but he just casually strolled over and picked it up, and nobody seemed to notice. But I guess that guy that was there,
The boss.
working, he was actually a professional photographer, and that was his studio. So he let the producers film in exchange for him getting the cameo in the movie. I guess that was kind of the
It's a good
trivia
deal.
behind the scenes. Yeah,
That's a smart business move right there.
but
I was
yeah,
wondering if he like took the necklace because maybe he was going to go home and put it on a mannequin, but he doesn't. Corin, we're going to talk about this. So he actually shows up to Rita's apartment, and we already mentioned how this is like a Jalo film. What does every Jalo film do? We're going to have a scene with a shower or a bath, and so
Right.
Rita's preparing a scene to take a bath. Right before she gets in, our maniac killer shows up to the door, delivers the necklace, and he does a sly move. And I actually had seen this done before where you can slide your hand to the door. I mean, it's got to be a certain kind of lock, but you can set it to where the lock won't lock you out, even if you do the lock. It's really something you got to see to believe. But he does it so he can sneak in at any moment, and so he leaves, which I was really impressed for. But yeah, not for long because he waits for her to take a bath. It happens. He sneaks back into the apartment. We don't see him sneak in, but when she gets out, the camera kind of like pans out, and we see like the side of his body, like his hand there, and so we know he's in the hallway, and then he attacks her with a very interesting scene. So like she makes her some tea. She's gonna have a nice evening, and he kind of grabs her, and they fall very like slow motion. And I remember thinking to myself at first, like, oh, we're going to get another like just dramatic off-screen kill, but that's not what happens. Corin, he ties her up to her bed, and he starts talking to her, and then he starts threatening to her. And I think this in the movie is when it's really kind of laid out for us that he clearly has mommy issues, and he tells her he's not going to let her go out, and then he stabs her multiple times with a switchblade. So it's cool, we continuously get new weapons, and then of course he scalps her. But the conversation that he has, it lays out the fact that I believe it's his mom who was a prostitute, which is why he for the most part kills prostitutes. So this whole thing that's been going on, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff going on there. And like when he showed up at her house initially with the necklace, um, I would be like, well, if I was her, I would assume that like, oh, you have this because you stole it. It's like weird that this random guy was on the set there. The necklace goes missing, and then oh, he happens to be the one that found it. Like it's pretty suspicious. But I felt like she was like realistically suspicious of him, unlike the photographer woman who's like, oh, great, you found my place, somehow.
Right.
Also, I wasn't really clear on how he knew where she lived, but he somehow found that. And but yeah, and then I thought that was really interesting how like yeah, he just like messes with the door so he can just get back in a little bit later and like she thinks she's safe. And I thought the scene showing like just having his hand in the foreground was really like effectively creepy, like oh, there's this menacing thing in the place. And I also, yeah, thought it was just gonna be like, oh, okay, I guess we're just gonna imply the kill, but then you see that she's tied down to the bed and it was interesting too because like she was making the reasonable choices. She's pretty much like don't kill me and stuff, and there's just really like nothing she can do at that point. Like and it seems like maybe he's saying he just wants to like talk to her and stuff like that, but then he just kind of has his psychotic break and gets his mommy issues coming to the surface and then just has to kill and scalp her. And then, he's got a new mannequin for the collection with the bloody clothes and the scalp.
I've often heard it discussed in horror background of how when you have a male serial killer who chooses a sharp object to stab particularly women with, that it's supposed to kind of be like a metaphor, resemble like sex,
Yeah,
and
the
issues with
penetration.
sex penetration. Thank you. I don't know why that word was so hard to say. I feel it every time my finger goes to the toilet paper, but yeah, man, it's so weird because it makes sense, but then all of a sudden, like it's his mom, and it kind of makes him even more into it, which I guess identifies a maniac.
Well, he also like, and then when he's like back in his apartment, is this when we see like there's like a little boy mannequin, and he's like putting out cigarettes on it,
Oh,
like
was there a little
something.
boy mannequin? I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
it's like
man.
that. It's like something that used to happen to him. There's a lot of talk about like you better hide in the closet and
Yes.
stuff, or what happens. And so he's like sort of acting out like his doing what his mother like had done to him, like one of the abusive things.
It's got to be one of those things where she brought her work home, and so he was always there, and so she would put him away, and if he like
Right.
tried to spy on or walk in, then she had to punish him or something. I'm getting some like almost like the religious closet from Carrie type deal, but also to a
Hmm.
whole nother level. I think I've seen some other movies that kind of danced around the same thing of, oh, the mom was a prostitute and now you're going to murder beautiful women. But something about the way it's executed, especially with the Frank Zito character, I think makes it stand out on its own really well, especially when he's like playing with the toys, like in his mind, he's going
Yes.
back to being a kid again. I'm like, I love this.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that like if he was constantly in a situation where as a little kid he was forced to be in like a closet and like listen to his mother get fucked probably in crazy ways by strangers like all the time, and then she's also abusing him. I mean, that would fuck somebody up.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really would. And Andy, man, do you remember those little guns that made all the sounds and everything? Did you have one of those? It's like,
I did. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
so good, so good.
um,
God, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it too. That's so exciting. It's like every time I watch it, I find something new. And then next time, Julie's gonna be like, "Oh, you're watching again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm looking for a boy mannequin," and she's just gonna walk away. Next scene, he calls Anna from a payphone, and you remember payphones? Man, those were a thing of the past.
Good old payphones.
Little Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure right there. But
yeah.
Oh
he
yeah.
invites her to a show. He's like, I want to go to a show. And so of course she's like, yeah. And he drives over and picks her up, and they're talking in the car, and she thanks him for sending flowers to Rita's funeral and from going to it. I'm like, wait, what? Like that would have been creepy as shit. He killed her and then he shows up to her funeral.
It's funny how into him she is too. Like she's always down for whatever. She's like, yeah, I don't, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'll drop it if this, hunk of a man wants to go out with me again. It's like, yes, please. So man, he really fucks that up.
Yeah, it's love at
Oh
first
yeah.
sight for sure. I guess. But on the way to the show, he's like, hey, you mind if we go by the cemetery so I can deliver some flowers to my mother's grave? And, on the one nice scene we had earlier where they're in the restaurant, he shows her a picture, like he carries a picture of his mom. Because obviously pre-cell phones, if you want a photo, it's usually in your wallet, but he carries a single picture in his jacket pocket. So he kind of has already revealed that, he was close to his mom, loved his mom passed away. So now it doesn't seem abnormal to be like, I just want to deliver these flowers. Like, if anything, she probably feels like she's getting closer to him in this moment. But she's going to learn it's closer than she wants to be, because they show up to the grave, and man, it just starts to escalate, right? And he starts to kind of sob and lose it. And she tries to like comfort him in a beautiful way, but it doesn't work. And so he starts freaking out, and he starts mentioning the girl he killed. He's like, Rita knew about it. And she's like, wait, what? Rita, what? And I think that kind
That's the
of
turning point.
is another red flag. And then as she pulls away, it sets him off even more. And so he's chasing her through this cemetery, and it's freaking awesome because, Andy, do you remember when they used to do fog machines in cemetery? It looks so cool.
Yeah, I love the setting in the cemetery. Yeah, with the fog machine and it's just a cool setting.
It is. And I was shocked how this played out, because I thought for sure, like, oh, he's going to catch her and kill her. We're probably going to get a cool scene. And we do get a cool scene, but it's not a death scene. She actually is very smart. She's a great, like, if she was in this whole movie, she'd have been a great final girl. But she hides behind a tombstone. It's dark. He can't find her. She pops out and hits him with a shovel, but not like over the head. Like she slices his arm open, and it looks awesome. And she does the smartest thing in the world. She runs away. Like she's gone for the rest of the movie. Like she saved her own life, which is great. But this gives us a really cool scene because he, favoring his arm wound, he crawls back to his mom's grave, and he's on his knees and he's crying and pleading, and we're kind of letting it all out. This is a scene that ties to what you were talking about, Corin, where we're finding out, like we hear a lot about it. No, don't put me in the closet. And then we hear the word punish a lot, and we realize that, yeah, I mean, he's clearly had this very traumatizing childhood. But it's not much better right now, because you got to be pretty messed up if you envision your own mom's corpse busting out of the grave and grabbing you.
At first I was like, oh, is this going in like a really weird, like sort of fantasy direction all of a sudden? Like, oh no, it's like an actual like just, like hallucination or something that's happening. It was a really good effect.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. The zombie scene, I appreciated that.
Yeah, this movie's kind of got a little bit for everybody. Did you guys see any of the behind the scenes where they were talking about originally there was supposed to be like maggots all over the zombie just to kind of make it look
Mm.
even more horrifying, I guess. But it was so freaking cold that the maggots had frozen and they just fell off.
Oh wow.
Oh shit, I didn't, but that's awesome. So kind of like like the zombie corpse in Zombie,
Yes, I love
Fulce,
that damn
with the
movie.
maggots in the eyes and all that.
Do you like that movie, Corin?
Yeah, it's classic.
Okay, we might bring you back for that one then in particular because that's a
Okay.
great one. Cool.
Yeah.
Andy's like, I'm gonna watch it a
That's
hundred
the
times.
that's the one with the zombie versus shark, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell
Yeah,
yeah.
you got to be careful because it's called Zombie and Zombie 2, depending which DVD you get.
Right.
But we're getting towards the end of the movie, so Frank makes his way. It's the first time I'm calling him Frank. I know you guys have been doing it, but I'm like, I'm not giving this jackass a name. I'm not giving him a personality. Well, okay, he's Frank. So Frank reaches back to his apartment. He collapses on the bed, and in one of the most classic endings ever, I think this is one of the two things people probably remember the most from the movie is the Tom Savini shotgun blast and the fact that the damn mannequins come to life and tear him apart. And my gosh, it is the most amazing scene. I mean, Andy, I know this was giving me Day of the Dead vibes, but this scene's got to be classic, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. You're like, and it's another one of those things that's kind of out of left field. It's like, okay, now the mannequins are coming to life and they're attacking him, and so what's going on, But it turns out it's just I mean, I'm assuming it's just another like hallucination or whatever, uh, but we do kind of like flip back to reality, and we see that he is actually dead, and I guess he just stabbed himself. That's kind of what it.
Yeah, because it was like sort of like a fantasy sequence or something like that, like where which it made for such a cool shot, seeing like all the victims like rising up against him, just like literally tearing him apart. And yeah, and then I guess like in what had happened in reality is just like because like it's like showing like his reality is so like fractured, it's like you don't know kind of what's real at some points because like he doesn't know what's real because he's like losing it more and more, and then yeah, he's like clearly just like stabbed himself or something. And I liked that like the cops showed up and we didn't because we didn't need a scene where like we see the photographer going and like going to the cops and then like the cops coming and stuff. I like that it just cut right to them showing up, like we didn't, and just I feel like a lot of movies would have slowed it down with showing every part of that whole escalation, and I'm like, no, like let's just cut right to the chase. And then but then it ends on him just with his like eye open, so you're like, is he dead? Because the cops didn't really get a pulse when they came in. They just got
Yeah,
like, well, I guess he's it.
yeah. I wasn't sure if they were trying to like lead up to a sequel or something, or just do like a kind of zinger ending, or what they wanted to do with that.
Yeah, and we mentioned so many times how this movie parallels like a Giallo film, and these got to be the most like Giallo looking cops I have ever seen in my life. Everywhere from the
Yeah.
clothing, the hairstyle, the damn eyebrows in this movie. This is the kind of stuff I'm looking for in a film. This rocks. But yeah, they show up and they find him impaled with that knife, and they just rule it a suicide. And like you said, they don't check for a pulse or anything because it looks pretty obvious. But I absolutely love how it ends because there's so many things that are like ambiguous. You never know what's really going on, what's real, what's not. Obviously, he didn't get torn to pieces, but that scene was so cool because it's mannequins coming to life, but they use the actresses to portray the mannequins alive, but still with
Right.
bloody faces and everything. I thought it was such a brilliant move for William
Yeah.
Lustig. Like the vision just worked. He knew what he wanted to do, and he executed it so well. But one of my most favorite things, if I'm being honest, in movies is freeze frames, and I love that this movie ends on a freeze frame, like a doon doon doon. He's not
Yeah.
dead, and yeah, they wanted to do a sequel, but what was the actor's name who played Frank Zito? I forgot.
Joe
Joe
Spinell.
Spinell.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys, Jinx, you both owe me a monster. But yeah, man, he really wanted to do a sequel, but he was nearing the end of his life. But what a legacy to leave behind for everybody in this film, because this movie is a freaking awesome slasher. It's a freaking awesome, like gritty, grimy New York movie. It's a timestamp of the early 80s, late 70s for sure. But my goodness, it's one I could always rewatch. And so, believe it or not, I actually bought this on DVD, but I didn't get to tell you guys about my first watch. I first watched this movie a month ago. Isn't that weird? I'm
wow.
40 years old and I just decided to watch it the other day. And I don't know why it took me so long, but I'm so glad I did because I'm going to make it up by subsequent watches now. But I love this damn movie. How about you guys?
It's so good. And like I'm glad to get it more fresh in my mind because I'd only remembered such little bits and pieces here and there. So kind of like having it come together as a more cohesive thing. I like that so much of it is held up so well, from many years later. It was like was it what 1980?
Right? It's
So
over
yeah, like
40 years.
45 years
Yeah.
ago. Um, and it's still like very watchable today. It was yeah, I recommend too yeah, checking out the remake with Elijah Wood too to see how that compares. Because I remember that being good, but like it's like a different take on it, but still very interesting.
Yeah, it's all in like first person. It's not
Yeah.
it's almost like you're watching like a found footage or something, but because you're seeing everything from the killer's point of view.
Which kind of reminds me of the German serial killer film Angst from the 80s, where it's about like a guy who I think it's like it starts with he was like released from prison, but he's very crazy, and it's a lot of like POV stuff of him, and then he goes and like starts immediately terrorizing people. And I wonder too, I mean, being the big horror fan like of Elijah Wood was kind of like using that as some inspiration for his character in the Maniac remake.
Well, it's
Yeah.
good to know that I'm the one who hasn't seen it yet. Just like the other movie, I'm last in line. But yeah, I'm going
There's
to
so many
watch it.
fucking movies out there.
That's right. That's that. I'm taking that excuse and I'm using it. But
Mhm.
Corin, before we get out of here, man, let's talk about you for a minute. You made your debut on the podcast on Maniac, probably one of the greatest movies ever. But
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about sickflix.net. And if people want to, find the site and find you, where can they do that?
Yeah, just check out sickflix.net. Got a lot of interesting reviews there and quite a back catalog, especially if you're curious about like extreme films and where to even get started, because a lot of times it's hard to even know where to find these. And so in the reviews, I put like where you can actually find the films and how easy it is to find. I have like a whole like scale, basically, from like really easy to find, to impossible to find, and I color code it and I put links in there for people to locate stuff. And sometimes, it's as of the review. So just because it was available at that time doesn't mean it necessarily is. But I definitely recommend checking that out if you want to dip your toe into that kind of world.
And you review all kinds of horror movies. Like you said, that's just like one particular section, right? Is just the extreme
Yeah.
stuff. You do some pretty like basic horror movies too, right?
Yeah, so they got also just the regular reviews. I get sent like a lot of screeners and so just all kinds of different horror movies in the regular review section. The original versus remake, which I've been wanting to do more of. I haven't done that in a while, but I really like doing those. And then the short films as well. So I do a lot of short film reviews.
And we literally just talked about an original versus remake, Maniac.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So one more time, where can they find the site?
Sickflix.net.
That's awesome. Corin, thank you so much for coming on here. I know we kind of recorded at a weird time, but man, it made it so worth it because watching Maniac is great, but talking about Maniac is even greater.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I was glad to do it.
All right. And so you guys know we'll be back on the next episode. It'll be Andy's pick. I brought Maniac, and I can't wait to see what he brings to the table. We always try to connect the movies one way or another, but Andy loves slashers, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're right back in the slasher scene. But that wraps up this episode. I'm Phantom Dark Dave,
And I'm Abnormal Andy.
and you've been listening to the Scream and Skull podcast.